Hey guys, it's your creative queen. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you guys don't miss a beat. Let's get creative. In today's tutorial, I'm going to walk you through step by step how I created this Valentine's Day claw machine. So let's get started. Here's the supply list that we're going to use during this tutorial. I will also put it in the description. So you want to make sure you have all your prints. This is our front page. This is going to be our left or our right side panel. There is the next panel. This is going to be the back of my claw, and I'm going to use this as my inside the claw print. This is the top of my claw machine. And then this is a guide to help you cut out the inside shelf, as well as the two little pieces that are going to be on the shelf. That bottom back page, we'll get to that later. That's going to be your claw, your piece for your coin boxes as well. So we'll touch base when we get there. So if you follow me, you know that I prefer Hobby Lobby foam board. It cuts better, it has a better feel. It is in the art section of Hobby Lobby, and the SKU is 638015. So I'm going to use a hyper tough box cutter during this tutorial. It's from Walmart. I love it, guys. It comes with 5 blades. I have a cutting glove, a small squeegee, my scissors, and you're going to need a roll of cellophane or cellophane. Cellophane itself, it doesn't have to be a huge roll like I have, but you do need some cellophane. So I have this huge roll that I got from a cake supply store, but you can get this from Dollar Tree. It's cellophane wrap. You're also going to need some double-sided tape and a ruler. All right, guys, so we are going to take our front panel for our claw machine, and we're going to line it up along the edge of the foam board. So line it up nice and neat. Once you're happy with your positioning, you want to limit your cutting as much as you have to. So by lining it up on the corner, I'm avoiding having to cut 2 sides of this. I'm going to line it up and try to peel back that adhesive backing. I'm going to fold the corner down, and then I'm going to gently slide my hand over it. I turn the page inside out or backwards, just so I don't remove any of the ink. It's not going to come off, but I'm a creature of habit, so you will see me do this a lot in the video. I'm going to scrape my squeegee over it just to get the bubbles out. And also, because if the squeegee got dirty and I'm messing up my print, I just like to protect it. So I'm going to utilize as much space as I can on this board. So I'm going to place this other one right next to it. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a gap so I can cut in between it without touching my print. This one's going to give me a really hard time. Sometimes you just have to lift it up. It's normally when I'm recording that it wants to give me a hard time. Try the other side. All right, so now we're going to lay this down. Again, line it up towards the bottom so you don't have to cut that bottom edge. Put the corner down and then lift it up and start from the top. Gently run your hand down or your squeegee and smooth it out so you don't get any bubbles. Don't stress if you get any bubbles in the center, guys, because that piece is going to get cut out. Also, when you're printing out these designs, utilize that space. Remember, we're doing this so we can print 8.5 by 11 at home, but you also have that space that you can use. So print something else in that little white space or whatever color space you make it. You can use it for a cutout for something else. So I'm going to flip the board over and I'm just going to add the rest of my prints. So I'm doing my front, my side panels, and then I'm going to put the back panel on as well. Now remember, guys, we are doing an inside piece and we're doing an outside piece for the back panel. So I'm going to put my back panel, the part that's going to be facing out on, and then Once I get this cut out, we will do the inside piece, which is going to go on the front of the back panel. It'll make a lot more sense once you see the finished product or once you see how we put it together. So don't stick that other piece onto foam, basically, is what I'm saying. Just go slow, make sure you follow the video, because if you put it on foam, now you got to put another piece. So I'm going to grab my glove and we're going to start cutting. Guys, remember, make sure that you have enough space to maneuver the board around, to maneuver around your cuts. I cut best, of course, with my dominant hand, which is my right hand. So you're going to see me position the foam in a way that works best for me in cutting. So it may not always be great for the video, but in order to get the best, cleanest cut, I am going to always turn it to where I can cut at my best. So grab your ruler. I have a ruler with a cork backing. I prefer those. This isn't that one. I actually didn't have it for the beginning of the video, but I went and got it later. You want to make sure that you're pressing down, applying pressure to the ruler, which is keeping the foam and paper in place. So you want to use that ruler to your advantage. Apply pressure, press down, and then pull. This is how you're going to get a clean cut. Try not to pull your blade out when you're doing a cut. One continuous cut. Now we're just going to separate these two images. And I'm going to continue this for all the other pieces. You just want to make sure that you clean off any of the excess white space. When you are done cutting these out, each of these pages should be 8.5 by 11 because it should fit exactly to your print, which is 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to speed up the video while we continue to cut the rest of these out, and then I'll join you when we're about to place the backing onto our outside back panel. All right, guys, we are back. So hopefully you were able to cut out your images with no issue. Now we're going to go ahead and flip over our back panel and we're going to place our inside image on it. If you're worried about this lining up perfectly, guys, you can leave one or two sides or put this image on the corner so that you have two of the positions already cut perfectly. That way you can kind of do both pieces without cutting. I hope that makes sense. I may show that in another video, but you want to do your best to line this up. Remember, this is your inside, so if you don't go perfectly to the edges, you're not going to see all of it. Like if you can see in the top, in the left-hand corner, instead of peeling it up and just messing up my image, I decided it's not going to show, so I'm going to go ahead and just cover it. So I'm okay with the little error. It didn't go exactly to my left-hand corner, if you notice. See? But all right, guys, so now we're going to grab all our pieces. You should see right here that you have nice clean cuts and everything should line up. It should be 8.5 inches by 11 inches. All right, so we're going to set those aside, clean up a little bit, and now I'm going to grab my inside claw piece. This piece we're going to work on. This is going to be the piece that hangs from the lid. And these are your pieces to create your joystick box. So this piece right here, which is the coin slot, you do not want to put on foam. So cut it out early, set it aside, don't lose it, but set it aside so you don't accidentally put it on a piece of foam. So I'm going to cut those pieces out and then I'm going to adhere them to a scrap piece of foam. Do not use a brand new board for this. You should have scraps that it will fit on. So go ahead and apply it to your board and we're going to cut these pieces out. This is going to be tedious and it's probably the one part I do not like about the claw machine, but it gives it such a great visual effect that I find it important to keep it in here. So definitely make sure for this you can use a smaller box cutter. I can get it done with the Hyper Tough, but I want to make sure for people who aren't comfortable using a blade like I am, you can use an X-Acto for the intricate details of this cut. So we're just going to clear off some of the excess. I try to save extra foam board, so I don't want to cut with these pieces on here, so I'm going to trim it off. And then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of cutting this. I'm probably going to speed this portion up, guys, because I don't think you need to sit here and watch the entire process. I'm not even sure how long it took, but I will time it. I'm pretty sure it was a good 5 minutes, but you want to make sure that you're careful and you pay attention to detail because it just looks better. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to pause this sound, and then you guys can just watch me cut this. Once we're done cutting, we will move on to the next step. All right, guys, as promised, it was 8 minutes and 27 seconds to cut out that piece. So what you're going to do now is you're going to turn them upside down, and you're going to put the claw on the bottom. You're going to put the chain above it, I guess. I'm going to leave at least a 1/2 inch space in between it, and I'm going to take my glue gun and I'm just going to go straight down into the top of the claw. Okay, and you're going to take your string, you can use twine, you can use something that's white that actually blends with the background. This is what I had on hand, so I grabbed black so it'll kind of go with the machine itself, and we're just going to glue it down in a straight line. So you want it to be down the middle of the claw, and this is the back of it. I'm going to cut off the excess because I don't need it to be that long. And now I'm just going to line it up with the other portion. Again, make sure that you give yourself at least a 1/2 inch gap. You want it to be able to bend when you open your lid and not stick straight out, otherwise it'll break. So line it up straight to the top, and then we're going to add the rest of our glue, and we're going to glue that down. All right, guys, so this is what it looks like once it's completed. We're going to set it aside and let it dry. Next, we're going to cut out our inside shelf. So this shelf is going to be what you're going to put your candy, your treats, your gifts, and everything on. So I did have the template cut out, but it wound up being a 1/4 inch too small. So I have resized the template. The template will be correct. Again, guys, please get used to measuring. Because if you get a template from someone and it's not properly sized, then you'll wind up with pieces that you can't use. So I always do a trial run just to make sure the template's right, and it was off by a 1/4 inch. Remember, sometimes when sizing in Canva, it doesn't necessarily let you do to the points and the dots, but this one has to be resized. So I will resize it before I drop the template. But by the time you guys see this, it already will be repaired. So I'm just making sure I have no bubbles. This part's usually not going to be seen, and you don't necessarily have to print the template portion onto sticker paper. You can print it on regular paper and use it as a guide to cut. But I thought it would look cute with the design if I just went ahead and printed it. So I did print it and apply it to the foam. But again, you can take that panel, print it out on cardstock, and then you have it for future templates or future designs, I'm sorry. So I'm just measuring. Guys, I'm big on measuring. I'm just trying to make sure it's lining up properly. And I felt like it was. And then I realized it's a little bit off. So that's why I'm cutting further off the gray. And now we're going to go ahead and cut out the lighter gray portion. That's going to be where technically on a claw machine your candy would drop. So we're going to cut that off because we want this to look as real as possible, even though it's not a working claw. But it gives a great visual. And this is I did these for Easter and a couple other events, and people love them because they visibly look like claw machines. So now you're going to take your other guides that I gave you. Now you can take this gray square piece and you can cut it. But I wanted to give you templates for each portion of this. But you can take that gray piece and cut it in half because it was sized to 3 inches by 3 inches. So it would be 1.5 by 1.5. But I did cut a piece of this a little bit bigger just so that I could cover the back end of one of the pieces. So you'll see once I get done cutting this out what I mean by that. And again, these portions are guides, guys. So again, you can print this out on cardstock and use it as a guide. But because I was going with using the gray, I'm going to actually use these as well. And they will show through on my design. So these portions will be facing the inside. So it gives that effect. But the whole shoot or the part that drops down where the candy will be white visibly from the outside. So you can flip it, you can make it black, you can do it whatever color you want, or you can just leave it white. But I just wanted to let you know it's not required that you put it on foam. So I'm just going to cut these pieces out and then I will show you assembly next. All right, guys, so grab your side pieces and grab the rest of your template for the shelf. And what we're going to do is we're going to line it up just like that. Now, I'm just measuring, and I did realize that one of my pieces was a little bit longer than I wanted. So I'm just going to double check that, and then we're going to cut it if it's too big. But I want to size it and make sure I've got the pieces in the right spot, because again, I did say I made one 1/4 of an inch bigger. So I'm just checking that, and I'm going to put this piece down because I'm happy with the sizing. So you're going to put glue along the bottom. Please, please, please remember not to put glue along the front of it because that is the part that's facing your plastic, okay? So I'm just going to line that up to the very edge. And I keep a piece of foam around because I can easily use that to scrape off hot glue. So it should be nice and clean, guys, and it should be flush with the front panel. Now we're going to take our other piece and we're going to line that up inside. So you see how it's not behind it, it's inside. I've got it on the inside portion. I'm lining that up and I can see that I'm over a little bit. So I'm going to mark that and then I'm going to cut it and I'm going to make my adjustment on my template. And that's why I want you guys to be used to eyeballing stuff, testing it before you glue it down. Because one little piece being off can totally mess up your design. So now we are good. I am edge to edge. I'm going to put some glue underneath. And I'm going to put some glue on the left-hand side. Because that's the part that's going to face that piece. So right there, I'm going to just put a piece of glue or a strip of glue going up. And then I'm going to adhere those two pieces together. And now our shelf, once dry, is ready to go inside of our design. All right, so we're going to clean up our workspace a little and we are going to start cutting out the insides of our claw windows. So we have 3 pieces that we have to do this for. I'm going to play at regular speed the first one. You want to cut inside of whatever guide you gave yourself. So on the template, there is a little guide. You can add an offset to your panel when you do your design. I like to have that little separation between the red and the plastic. So that's why I'm leaving my black border. So you'll notice that there will be a black border between the red and the plastic once we're done and we get this white piece out. It also gives you a guide as to where to cut, especially if your design color is the same that runs into your white piece. Now, again, remember guys, don't waste these pieces. I have now 3 pieces that are sitting here with paper on them or printable vinyl on them. So this could have been a cutout for my grandkids or something like that. So don't waste that space. This could be a tiny photo cube or something. Use everything. So you're going to make sure it pops out easy. If it does not, then you need to go over those corners again. Remember, forcing it out is going to give you a jagged edge. So you have to make sure you have a clean cut and it pops right out. Okay? I'm going to set that one aside. And we're going to grab the other 2. I'm going to speed those up while we cut those, and we'll come together once those are done. All right, guys, we are almost to the finish line. Let's grab our cellophane wrap, some double-sided tape, and your scissors. We're going to flip over that front image and grab our cellophane. So you're going to take a piece of cellophane and you're going to stretch it over your image just to get your sizing. So I believe that the box is 5.5. Again, don't quote me on this, guys. I have to look at the template. But cut your piece out a lot bigger than your square or your rectangle so that you have room to work with and you have space to pull and tug when you're using the double-sided tape. All right. So I'm just gauging where I'm going to cut right now. And then we're going to grab our double-sided tape. All right, guys. So we've got it sized, and now we're going to just make sure that's a little bit over, and I'm going to make sure it's not too wrinkled, and I don't want to recut it. But I'm going to grab my double-sided tape, and you can use double-sided tape that's not like this one. This I got from the $1.25 tree, and I kind of like the way it works. Like I can lay it out where I want it first, and then peel off that backing. It does take a little bit more time, but I prefer that because I'm able to maneuver around the plastic without fully setting it down in all four corners. So I'm going to place it on the top, and then I'm going to place it along my two left side and my right side. And the key to this is pulling as tight as you can so it kind of blends with the project. It looks completely like the project. It doesn't look like there's any gaps or any folds in the plastic. Otherwise, it's not going to look real. So you want to make sure that when you're doing this, we pull really tight and that we get a good fit on your plastic. So I'm just using my box cutter to remove those strips. And I didn't put it on the bottom yet because I don't want to fully secure it on all sides. I want to make sure I get a good pull and a good grip on the first side before I put it on the rest of the product. All right, so I'm going to grab it, and what I want to do is I want to pull tight. So I'm going to pull left to right as I'm applying the top piece. And I think I actually decided I didn't like that piece, so I did cut a new piece. For whatever reason, I think there was a fingerprint or something on it, and you want it to be clear, so it's hard to clean it off, so I did cut a new piece. Didn't realize it till just now. All right. So I'm just sizing it down. Already got my double-sided tape on, so it made it a little bit more difficult, but here we go again. I'm gonna line it back up, and I'm pulling left to right, so I get a really tight pull. And then I'm gonna apply it to the top first, slide my finger over it to secure it, and then I'm gonna pull it up, and then I'm gonna give it a really tight pull and pull it down along the sides. This piece just really didn't want me to be great. So we're giving it a nice pull on the other side. I promise you guys, this is much easier than this one piece made it look. This was, I don't know what it was about the first piece. It just did not want to cooperate. So now I'm just going to add a piece of double-sided tape along the bottom. Take off the covering. And then I'm going to pull down and secure it. And I'm going to do that in sections. So I did it on the left side. Now I'm going to pull down on the right side as well. Take off that covering. And I'm going to pull. Now you guys are going to see me mess around with this a lot. I want to make sure that there are no folds, no gaps. I kind of saw one, so I'm going to make sure that I am happy with it before I finish messing with it, okay? This double-sided tape is strong, so it's going to be hard once you get it on to remove it. Unlike some double-sided tapes that give you a little bit of wiggle room, this one's not. So I'm going to place a little piece of double-sided tape in the corner and actually pull it a little bit harder against it. Because I want that plastic to pull hardly. Otherwise, I could just take it off and redo it, but I did not. All right, I'm finally happy with that corner, so I'm going to trim off my excess. And right here is where I'm going to let you guys know that we are going to breeze right past a very important part on cutting out the front flap. I'm going to turn it over and show you. You see that pull on the bottom? That's not cut out. That should have been cut out earlier in the video. Crystal's not going to realize it till we start assembly. So just keep watching. We're going to do all the plastic, but you are going to see me pull off something that is really hard to do. I'm going to cut that out while it's partially assembled. So keep watching. I'm going to fast forward this part. We're going to do the other two pieces with our cellophane, and then we will come together and put it together. All right, guys, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to start assembly. I will let you know, guys, if you are doing these for any holiday or you're doing these in bulk, prep them first. Get all of your kits to look like this, set them aside, because assembly is easy. It's getting all these pieces cut out. So if you don't like cutting out, do know that I do cut out and ship for you. You just have to let me know. But this portion for Valentine's Day last year was really busy, so I just cut them out, had them on the counter, ready to go, and then you can just bust through assembly. But here we go. We're going to assemble. Guys, I did it again. I looked at it, did not realize that I did not cut that front flap out. We're not going to realize it probably for another 2 or 3 minutes, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to start by turning our front panel down, face down, and we're going to put glue straight down the left-hand side. I always start on the left. I don't know why, maybe because we read left to right, but that's where I start. So you're going to take a piece of glue. You don't have to put a bunch, guys. Put a thin layer of glue. And you're going to line up your top edge with the top edge of the paper that is facing down. And then you're going to line it along the entire top edge of the page. What I'm doing is I'm just making sure that there's no excess glue, and I'm making sure that I'm all the way to the edge. I am on top of the piece that's facing down, but I'm all the way to the edge. Now we're going to grab our other side. Now keep in mind, guys, if you do this and you decide that you want one design on one side and one design on the other, that's when you need to pay attention to what's going where. The most important piece is your front, and then your left and right side is totally up to you what you want to go where. So we apply our glue to our right side, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn it to hopefully give you guys a better view. I'm going to line up the top and the bottom and make sure that the rest of the page is along the edge. Okay? Clean off any excess glue right away so it doesn't dry. And make sure that you're lined up top to bottom so that when you go to put your lid and your base on, you're not too high or too low. All right, so now we've got those pieces. We're going to let those dry, and then we're going to put our shelf inside. All right, guys, remember when I said I realized later in the video that Crystal did not cut out the pull? This is when I realized it, when I was about to put the shelf in, which should have been a little bit more hard with the shelf in as well. But we are going to do something that I've done before. This will be really hard, guys, so please pay attention and make sure that you cut out prior to adding your sides. But I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out, and I'm going to speed this portion up because normally you're just going to cut this out when you're cutting out your window flap. So I'm going to speed it out, but I just wanted to show you that this was already assembled and I had to cut it out. Okay, guys, so I am going to link another video in here within the next couple days just to show you guys how to normally do the flap. This is not your normal way to do it, so I don't want to actually give you full detail. But literally what you're going to do is you're going to cut along the base of it. So at the bottom of the pole, I'm going to go straight across with my box cutter from left to right. I'm then going to, on my left side, I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. And on my right side, I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. I'm then going to flip it over like it is right now, and I'm going to score from left to right. That's going to cause it to push out. So I'm going to flip it back over because it's not coming out easily, and this is harder to do because I've put the sides on already. So that's why I want to give you a full visual by doing an actual video of how to do that, because this was not the right way, and it would have been easier to show you guys. So once I've got it to pop out, I'm just going to cut a little bit of the foam off just so that closes easily, okay? Clean that up. That's an odd cut, so you might get little ridges and crinklies, but do that as neat as possible so that you get your flap to open and close. And right here, I'm like really proud of myself because that's hard to do with those windows on there, but it is cut out now. So now we can continue. We're going to go ahead and put our shelf in. So we're going to grab our assembled shelf and we're going to push it in and align it. Keep in mind, we want to stay above the flap that's cut out, but below the white plastic window. So you see how I've got a little bit of a space where you can't see the front lip? That's what you want. You don't want to see the front lip of it. So now that I'm positioned, I'm going to reposition. My side was a little wobbly because of me trying to cut. So I was going to glue it, but I decided I don't need to. So I'm just, again, going to position this above the score line of the flap, but below the plastic visual window, because you don't want to glue to your window. I'm just going to lift it up a little bit, and I'm going to put a line of glue right under there. Now, guys, you can take your glue and you can put it on your shelf and then slide it in, but it is best to make sure that you get a visual of where you're putting it and then put your glue down. So we're going to go ahead and pop our glue down, and we're going to hold so that it'll dry. Once you do that side, guys, you can kind of push your edge over a little bit on the left-hand side, and we're going to squeeze our glue down in there. And then we're going to make sure that we're lined up. I kind of curved a little bit here. So we're going to make sure we're lined up before our glue dries. And now we're going to grab our glue gun, and we're going to take the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to apply that glue. And then we're going to squeeze together so that we're making sure that it completely melds together. Now my glue gun is really hot, and I spent time adjusting things. So keep in mind, the hotter your glue gun is, the longer it's going to take for your glue to dry. I'm using high temp glue. So just give it some time and be patient. We want these pieces to secure together. So I'm going to take a minute to make sure it is melding together. I'm going to grab my glue gun, and I'm going to apply a line of glue along the base on the underside. So I'm just giving myself a little bit more support. And you got to let that dry every time you add more glue. And this is going to help if you're adding heavier items on there. You can also put pieces of foam underneath it just to give it more support. But I've done a couple of these, or I've done a lot of these, and I know how much weight it can take. But if you're going to put a lot on it, guys, just make sure that you add a cut piece of foam to support your base. Don't cover your flap, though. So it will go to the left of the flap and to the right of the flap. And don't cover that little hole in the front. So now, if you've glued everything correctly, your lid should go on with no issues because it's 8.5 by 11 inches. It should perfectly fit when you lay it on top. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my glue, and I'm going to put my glue down the very top on that seam. Okay. And then from there, I'm going to go across in an H pattern and just put my glue there. Now, guys, please take your time when you're doing this, because if you put it on crooked, your claw is going to be crooked. Make sure that you put it on top first to make sure it fit perfectly. And take your time to line it up at the very top and at the very bottom. And I do apologize that the camera angle did not have me putting on the top. I didn't realize it until after I put it on. So I'm just making sure there's no excess glue, cleaning it off. And I'm going to allow that to dry and apply a little bit of pressure to make sure that it stays on. Now, because I did that H type of glue method, it's pretty much glued down pretty well. So I'm just going to squeeze my glue gun in the crack and add glue. Okay. And this is just to secure it completely. Keep that piece of foam alongside you so you can wipe off any excess glue easily without burning your finger off. And here we go. We're going to flip it up, and then that's our top view. That's what we look like fully assembled. Now you want to make sure that your corners are meeting and that you have no glue strays. Clean those up before you finish your project, guys. So I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup, making sure that my edges are lined up perfectly. And there's a little bit of excess glue on the inside, so I was cleaning that off. The most important thing I'm going to let you guys know is try not to get glue on your plastic windows. That's really hard to get off. And if you have to cut out your window after you've gotten this far, it's really going to be hard. So now I'm just making sure everything's lined up well, and we're going to do our base and we're going to do our top. All right, guys, so we are going to cut out the base of our claw, and then we're going to cut out the top of our claw. So dimension wise, from front to back of the claw machine, it should be like 8.937 inches, almost 9 inches, okay? From left to right on the claw machine, it's going to be 8.5 inches. So we are going to cut this piece to 8.937 by 8.5. And you want to be almost as precise as you can, guys, because you don't want to lip on your claw machine. If you do, that's fine, but I try to get it as precise as possible. So cut that piece just under 9 inches by 8.5 inches, okay? Now, I'm going to size it to those dimensions. At first, I had it, I think, 9.25 by mistake. So I am going to resize it during the video, but I wanted to double check and give you guys the proper dimensions. It's 8.937 by 8.5, okay? So I'm going to take it and I'm going to apply it on there. And I'm just checking my measurements to make sure it is precise. I don't want any extra or excess lip. So it is good to go. But this is where I realize it's like 0.2, if not 0.1 over. So I'm just going to cut that little bit of a sliver over. And then we're going to go ahead and glue this down. So remember, I'm using a high temp heat gun, so I can go the entire box with one run of the glue gun and it not dry out or start to get cold. So if you're using a high temp gun, you should know how much or how far you can go before your glue starts to dry up. So I'm going to go ahead and do the entire surface by adding glue to the top. And guys, if you have to put your flap down or your bottom down on top of it and lift a corner at a time to do it, do so. You know, this is the method that I use because I've been doing this for a while. But take your time when you're doing this because you want everything to line up perfectly. You did not work this hard for it not to come out perfectly. So take your time. If you have to lay it on there and lift corner by corner to put your glue on, then do so. Okay? So I'm just making sure there's no excess, and I am happy with the base. And now we're just going to move along to the top. All right, so I did not bore you with the details of that cut, but again, we cut it from front to back. It's 8.937 inches by 8.5 inches, okay? So now I'm going to line up my top panel. I'm not going to use the entire page. I didn't have to print the entire page, but I did. So I'm just going to line it up where I want it. Remember, I'm only cutting 9 inches from this 11 inch page. So 2 inches of it is not going to be on my product. So line it up and center that image. And once I get it there, I'm going to go ahead and apply it. Squeegee it down to make sure you have no bubbles. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to cut off the excess from the printable vinyl. But I got to put my gloves on. So I'm going to cut off the excess sticker. Make sure it's not going to overlap on my design. And it stuck to my hand. Tease. All right, do the bottom. You already know it's going to stick to my hand too. All right, now we flip it over, move everything out of our way, and we're going to bring our claw machine back to the front of the video. I think this is when I realized I probably need to move back a little bit because I'm not giving you guys a full view. So I'm hoping that I adjust the camera soon. But you just want to make sure that it lines up perfectly. All right, as promised, I did realize the camera wasn't showing you the full view. So we are not gluing this down, guys. We want to make sure it lines up perfectly because now we're going to put our hinges on. But before we put the hinges on, we're going to put the claw on. So the best way to describe this portion is I want to kind of test and see where I want it to hang. So because I'm going to fill the inside with all these treats and goodies, I don't want it to hang over the treats and goodies, but I wanted to show you guys what it looked like if it did. I want mine to hang more over the hole because I'm not going to put anything over there. So visually, it's going to look like the claw has slid over and it dropped into the hole, or it's dropping or coming up from the hole. So that's why we're going to measure, and I'll give you guys the dimensions in the comments. I believe it's about 2 inches from the left where we're going to add our glue. So I'm trying to get a direct measurement. Remember that square is 3 by 3. So we're going to come over about 1.5 to 2 inches. And that's the left side of the claw where that black string is. And I left that on for visual because it's hard to point out during the video. So we're going to mark it just so I can glue it and I know where to put it once I go to glue it. Now, guys, you don't have to be this detailed. Literally, kind of just measure where you want it. But I like it over the hole. So that's why I'm going through this process for you guys. I kind of know and can eyeball it, but I'm trying to give you a visual of how to do it so that you know where to put it. Okay? All right, once you've got that spot marked, guys, go ahead and add a dab of glue there. Don't put a ton of it. We don't want to oversaturate it. And then we're going to turn our claw as if it was in the upside down position. So remember, you want the visual, the springs and all that to be facing away from you as you're gluing it. Because when it hangs, it should be facing forward. So the springs that you're gluing down, you want those facing away from you. Make sure it lines up. And you see now why we put that 1/2 inch gap, because we want that gap to allow the claw to fold. Okay. So I'm just going to allow time for this to dry. Make sure it is fully dry and secure it by adding glue around it, but keep it neat so that nobody can see all the glue. Okay, guys, so we are at the home stretch. We literally just need to put our hinges on and we are done. I just wanted to show you how that dangles. We are now going to make sure it's lined up properly. And we're going to turn it around. So you want the front of the claw machine facing away from you, okay? And we're going to grab our 2 hinges and make sure your glue gun is hot, right? And we're going to go about 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches from the left. And we're going to grab that first hinge and line it up. I'm going to add some hot glue, just a little bit, not enough to come past the hinge because we don't want to mess up our pretty design. And I'm going to apply pressure until that dries. Now, as you're doing that, guys, make sure that your flap doesn't move because you want it to be fully lined up. So I'm going to keep pressure on the top of the claw machine itself, and I'm going to apply pressure on the back of the hinge. Now I'm going to flip down that front portion. I'm going to add a little bit of glue. Again, don't put so much that it comes off onto your design. Apply pressure, and then again, make sure that your lid's not moving. Okay. Once that's done, then we're going to grab the other one and we're kind of going to do the same thing and put it on the other side. This works best with 2 hinges Don't try to do one. It will not be sturdy. You need 2 hinges. That's trial and error. So we're going to go to the other side. Again, try to keep the same equal distance from left to right. I'm making sure that my front flap is lined up and flush. And then I'm going to flip up the bottom, add a little bit of glue underneath. Again, making sure my front flap is lined up. And then once that's dry, you're going to flip that top back and add a little bit of glue. Does anybody else watch TV shows while they're crafting? I'm not really watching it, I'm more listening to it. Go ahead and apply pressure. And that's dry. Once that's dry, we're going to flip it around, guys, and you're done. We made it through. It does not normally take this long to assemble one of these. Once you get in a groove, like I said, you will know how to do them and do them quickly. But for tutorial purposes, I am moving a lot slower than I normally would. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that you go out and you make a lot of these and sell, guys. These are great money makers during the holidays, Valentine's Day, birthday, Easter, Christmas. All right, guys. So now that that is dry, we're going to go ahead and test our hinges. It is good. It works well. We're going to turn it around and we are done, guys. I hope this tutorial helps you. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer. Bye.